Hello there and welcome to a very special Wi-Fi sheet coming to you from the Southwest Computer Show here in Bristol. Hi there, how you doing? My name is Tom and welcome to Wi-Fi Sheet. We're here, as I said, in Bristol for the Southwest Computer Show 2019. We're nearly set up, the show is just about ready to be open. My stand, I'll just be out of the way, is right there. So we're here as Wi-Fi Sheet Ident Computer for today. Plenty to see, lots of people to talk to, so I hope you'll enjoy the video and thank you for joining me. Okay, let's take an opportunity just to show you what I've actually got on the stands for today. So we have one of the BBC Micros. You may remember we did a lot of work with these. This is the one that actually went to Bletchley Park, has the NULA card fitted. I'll be demonstrating the SparkWorks application that we used before. In the middle here we have an Ident CE system set up with, there's a Mac hiding in the network as well. And then on the end we have Micro 1, which is running Pico 8 for the first time today. Okay, well, joining us now is Anthony Bartram from AMCOG. Anthony, thanks so much for talking to us here on Wi-Fi Sheet. Just explain a little bit about what AMCOG actually is and what you do.
So AMCOG Games develops games for the RISC-OS platform and uses it as a creative springboard potentially for other platforms as well. And it also creates original music, which I do with a partner of mine, who also contributes game ideas. And I also have, in addition to those two things, an original sound generation technology for RISC-OS, something that enhances its capabilities, which were stuck a bit in the early 1990s.
So you use RISC-OS as your base platform. Is that all you develop for?
In terms of games, I do plan to support mobile platforms porting maybe a couple of titles. But as I said earlier, it's like a springboard. It provides a creative space because on a lot of other platforms you have a lot of other competition and distractions. I get a lot of engagement with customers on this platform, and it's quite good for being creative upon it.
So how many titles have you actually released so far?
I'm currently losing count. It might be 11.
11?
On my website. I think, if you count the development kit and RDSP, I'm doing about 2 games per year, typically. It may be a little more than that.
Now, you've also developed a new audio suite for RISC-OS, and that's possibly going to be part of the operating system going forward, is that right?
It would be logical if it rolled into the operating system. I was having a chat to all today. So I think that's something which would happen in due course, naturally. So basically it extends the sound capabilities of RISC-OS, makes the envelope command work, but it's sort of like, if you can imagine if the BBC Micro capability had been put into RISC-OS and it had been upscaled to do samples and more waveforms and sound effects like reverb and chorus and delay, then that's what it is.
Okay, so you're going to demonstrate some stuff for us now, is that right? So what are we going to look at?
So we'll start with something that's a bit like Lemmings. This is called Mop Tops. The difference between this and Lemmings is you have objects you can use rather than changing what the characters do. So we'll start on level 1. All the games have original music. Maybe bring that down a bit so you can hear me. These are the Mop Tops. Right? I'm going to take an electric fan and place it here to blow them across. To me this makes perfect sense. I don't see why that's an unusual idea. I'm going to take a spring so they can land on that. So in Lemmings you'd have an umbrella here to make them drop. Maybe some other means to get them across. If you don't have the spring there, they die, which I've just demonstrated. And you don't have to wait for them all to exit. You can accelerate the game. There are 30 levels in this title, and each one is accessible via a level code, so you don't have to go back to the beginning all the time. I'll show you a little tiny bit more. Continue. And I've got an electric drill. That sound is made by the sound extension we mentioned earlier called RDSP. And so they drill their way through, and then you've got a ladder here which you can use to get them up the top. And it just carries on like that. So we'll move on to the next game now. We also have arcade style games as well. Let's go for the 3D one.
Okay, so this uses it's a custom 3D engine, is it? Or?
Right, it's all written in BASIC.
Okay, so all BBC Basic.
All BBC Basic. It uses something called the painter's algorithm. So you draw from the back, and then you billboard the sprites, so they're basically scaled. Yes, it's in situ. I hope my own development kit, which I've written for Risco, is to make the games easy to write. So I can write them in as little as 2 hours. I think one of the games I sold it showed it 2 days to write, but this one took more than a year because I had to develop some new technology.
Yeah.
So we'll start at the beginning very briefly. So you can rotate. So it's a vector graphic. I've shaded it as you get further away. Got some ammunition there. And you have to collect your fuel cans to get to a plane to escape the island. Essentially, here we have a zombie who moonwalks, which I personally quite think is appropriate for zombies, as pioneered by Michael Jackson. So you can shoot him. You might be able to. There we go. There you go. And he just crumbles to dust. And you carry on going until you've got enough fuel cans, which are identified on the screen. If I zoom forward, we can quickly die. This level was done by Vince Hard. So Vince writes quite challenging levels. As you can see, we have quite a few zombies here. And my goal is to die so I can show you what happens when you die. So I'm being attacked by a large number of the undead, and my health is deteriorating. So when you die, you become a zombie.
Oh, okay, that's different. Yeah.
It's doomed forever to wander the island. But in case no one believes that's written in BASIC, we can, through the magic of RISC-OS's open model, press shift, double click that, and then I've got a decent editor up. If you put it to run image, you can see that it's just
And you can see the whole source code.
Yep, nothing's crunched. I keep it all open as possible so that people can understand what I've done, and if they want to incorporate it into their own projects. Let's do the Stunt Drive one that's recently come out. Internally, I tend to think of this as being a lot like Scalextric. So it's all done in BASIC. The levels are text files and contain a program for the cars to follow. When I was developing it, if they go too fast, they used to fly off the track. So be a bit careful. You have different difficulty levels. Our DSP being quite loud there. Let's go to track 2. And we'll go for hard. I'm supposed to be good at this. And I can now choose a car, which is a recent update. I'll go for a Lamborghini. And just go for a slightly gentler piece of music. I can accelerate. Overtake him. And you have to jump over ramps.
I was going to say, you've got jumps and obstacles.
That's right,
yeah.
And on a hard level, they have a tendency to catch me up. Oil there, to be careful about. Get the header in there. The music is original music that I write and record.
It's all done by yourself, Ben?
Mostly, some of it's co-written. The track on the zombie game that you heard was written by a friend of mine, that one. We co-write together, and a lot of the music's my own in these games, that's right. If I don't jump, miss the ramp there, you die.
It's got quite a boom to it, hasn't it?
Yes, it does. But I think sound effects are important.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Anthony, for taking the time to talk to us. And of course, we're hoping to cover more of AMCOG games in the near future here on the Wi-Fi Shoot channel. Anthony, thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.
Now, regulars to the channel will probably remember the NULA, the video chip card for the BBC Micro. Well, I have here the creator of the Video LA, the legend that is Rob Com. Rob, welcome to Wi-Fi Sheep. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Tom. Good to be here.
Just for anyone who's been living, I don't know, under a rock for the past 3 years, what is the Video NULA?
So the Virgin ULA is a graphics card for the BBC Micro, as you said, that's mainly designed to extend a range of colours available. So the original BBC Micro palette was 8 solid colours, 8 flashing colours. I always wanted something better, so about 4 years ago I really started thinking about how I could achieve this, and so Virgin ULA was the result, giving a palette of 4,096 colours and 16 colours to choose from in Mode 2.
I mean, it has been hugely successful. I just know the feedback from Wi-Fi Sheep has been huge. So, without going to commercial details, what's the kind of order rate been like for the card?
It was huge at the beginning. I mean, to be honest, more than I could keep up with, because it was very much done in my spare time. It's sort of got a bit quieter and sort of more manageable over time, which I've been thankful for. I'm still selling sort of a few a week, really. So, yeah, it's been much more successful than I ever anticipated.
Now, for this show, you mentioned you've got a new, is it a firmware or software update for the card? It does something new.
Yeah, so what I've been doing, I started off with this like Spectrum emulator. So that was using Virgin ULA to emulate the Spectrum's graphics modes, because it has this sort of attribute mode with colour clash that the BBC couldn't do. What I've been working on for the last few months is an Amstrad CPC emulator.
All right, okay.
So that's just a piece of software that runs on the Pi coprocessor and uses Virgin ULA to generate the Amstrad's 27 colour palette. The emulator comes in 2 parts. The first part is a ROM that I'm just about to load in. This does all the sort of host functions, keyboard, screen, sound. And the second part is the actual emulation application that runs on the Pi CoPro. So I'll just load that. So what this does is, once the ROM is in, all the sort of sound and screen handling, keyboard routines run on the BBC Micro. The Z80 emulation, the Amstrad emulation is running on the Pi coprocessor, which is here. As you can see, it boots into the familiar sort of Amstrad CPC 464 boot screen. What we can do then is, if I just change the directory, we can load some snapshot files. So one of the beauties of this is you can play games that weren't released on the BBC Micro. I used to play Pac-Man a lot in the arcade back in the day. It was never released on the BBC, much to my disappointment.
Oh, wow.
And you can see, if I just progress a little bit further, there are things like the dark red, the pink, some of the shades of blue. They're not available on the standard BBC, so it's using the Virgin ULA card to generate those colours. Grey there. So that's one example, and it plays fairly smoothly, pretty much as it would on an Amstrad. If I just change the snapshot, just loading the image into memory. And then we have Ring Dangerous, again another game that didn't appear on the BBC. And you can see that
incredible.
It's using the Amstrad's colours for the greys and the sort of steel blues and things. And it plays really smoothly. The Amstrad sound chip's probably slightly better than the BBC's. It can do things like hardware envelopes, so sound isn't perfect, but I've done sort of a reasonable job, I think, of emulating the sound. Certainly music sounds pretty good. The sound effects sometimes are a bit off, just because the BBC doesn't have the same range or control over the sound. There's a bit of a compromise between how much video data you can stream down the tube port, how much sound data, so you have to kind of trade that off. But it's quite playable. I've been playing this quite a lot the last month or so, and kind of enjoying playing it. Another one that did come up on the BBC, Rainbow Islands, quite a well-known game.
Oh yes, yeah.
Yeah. I've got to remember the keys actually. There we go. But you can see the colours have been recreated. The hardware scrolling on the CPC is very similar. It has the same CRTC controller as the BBC. So I basically just pipe the Amstrad's command straight to the BBC's equivalent. I paused it there. So that works really well. And then finally, just to show you, another game is called Contra in the arcades. Came out on the 8-bit machines as Gryzer. Didn't come out on the BBC again. So a typical refrain really. But you can play it quite happily. And it shows off the colours.
That's
of the
really quite something, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's for anything that doesn't do a lot of software scrolling. And as I said, the Amstrad had hardware scrolling. It works really well. The BBC is able to replicate with the new LA the Amstrad display, and the Pi's obviously quick enough to run the emulation.
So, and this has all been done just in software?
In software. So anyone with a new LA and a Pi Core Pro, this will run. When I did the Spectrum emulator, I added an extra mode to enable that. But this just uses the new LA's original features. One other thing that I haven't shown yet, I guess, is the ability to load disk images. So if I just do...
Alright, so we can actually load...
Yeah, so these are sort of disk images.
Okay.
Just to show you, it's not just games. This is the Amstrad disk drive system disk, and it came with an implementation of CP/M. So this, rather bizarrely, is running CP/M on the Amstrad on the BBC.
Get your head around that.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And there we go.
Oh wow. So theoretically then, this could run something like SymBoss, which is the new...
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't tried that yet, but potentially.
What would mouse support be like, do you think?
Well, what you'd have to do is, the emulator at the moment, it has joystick support, so I haven't demonstrated that, but I've implemented joystick support. So basically the emulation takes the I/O from the Amstrad's joystick port and translates that into calls to the BBC's joystick port. I could potentially do the same with the user port in the BBC and have an AMX mouse controlling the mouse for the Amstrad.
So it would actually be possible?
Yeah, certainly. It's not something I've looked at yet, but it could be added quite trivially.
And where can those of us that have got this set up, where can we get the patched software from?
So anyone who's got new LA, if you've got the original link to the support pack, I've just yesterday updated the support pack so that it contains the Amstrad disk image with the emulator on. If you've lost it, either get in touch with me in Stardoll. There's a thread on Stardoll I posted yesterday or Thursday that has the binaries in it. Otherwise just contact me and I'm happy to send it to you.
Okay, well Rob, thank you so much for showing us that. That is fantastic, and I think from all of us in the 8-bit community, you are a legend, almost a god. Thank you so much for the time and effort you've done, and thanks for talking to us here on Wi-Fi Shoot.
My pleasure.
Rob Coleman, everybody. Well, I'm just going to duck out the show for a few minutes. It's still really busy in there. I just want to say a huge thank you to everybody who has taken time out to talk to me today, and for everyone who has come along here to Bristol to the Southwest Computer Show. As ever, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you real soon right here on the channel. Until next time, bye for now.